What's up, everybody? KTVindicare here, and this is going to be a rave about Starcraft and Starcraft 2. Alright, so I've been processing my thoughts about WCS Valencia today, and I felt the need to make this video, especially after the comments that I made in my previous Starcraft video, which was a response to episode 3 of the Pylon. And I just want to say, I feel so vindicated right now. That's right, Vindicare feels vindicated, because I am absolutely stunned and hyped about Haas's run at WCS Valencia. Now, I know Haas is a very polarizing player. I understand how Haas represents a lot of the frustrations that players feel when they play on ladder. I get that. The last time I streamed Starcraft 2, I got cheesed 3 games in a row. Like, believe me, you guys, I get it. But what I want to talk about here is what Haas represents in a more philosophical way in terms of how we think about esports. So, like a lot of other people that play Starcraft, I'm not the most athletic person in the world. I mean, sure, I can run a decent mile, and, you know, I can hit a baseball, or a softball, rather. I suck at hitting baseballs. But I've never been, like, the most athletically gifted person in the world. So, there's something about sports that's fundamentally unrelatable to me. And that is that people like LeBron James, who are just physical gods, who are just born with natural, like, genetic ability that I don't have, are able to, like, pick this sport up and dominate it, that, you know, makes it feel a little unrelatable to me. On the other hand, it does make it really, like, fun to watch, because I'm watching these people that are technically human do shit that I could never do in, like, my entire life, because my body's just not built that way. Like, there's something fundamental about sports that makes it unrelatable that way. Now, granted, a counter-argument would be that, like, oh, you just haven't found a sport that fits your own personal build. Like, the Olympics are cool because, like, you've got people that with all types of body types and ethnicities and backgrounds or whatever that have found their sport to delve into. But this is one of the things that makes esports, in my opinion, truly special. In that esports, there's some physical components to it. I mean, you need to be able to use both of your hands, and you need to have, like, hand-eye coordination, like your eyes need to function properly. But in general, the physical aspect of esports is not as important. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, sports versus esports people don't like it in the first place. But it's one of the reasons why I think as a competitive fantasy, it is more pure. And this is what brings me to what Haas, to Haas. Look, guys, I don't like being cheesed as much as the next guy, but there is something beautiful about being able to use what is fundamentally a more intellectual and strategic playstyle versus somebody who is mechanically gifted as Cyril, who deserves every bit of praise in the world for how well he is doing right now and how good he is. Please go to Korea, Cyril. If you ever watch this video, please go compete in GSL. Starcraft needs you to do this. But what people like SOS, Bly, and now Haas represent is the strategic element of Starcraft. The ability for you to outsmart your opponent and to beat your opponent with strategy. And regardless of how you feel about cheese as a strategy, it is a strategy. It is a way for you to play that allows you to overcome somebody who might be mechanically better than you are. And I've seen some things on Twitter and Reddit about how this is not something we should encourage, or that this is like cheering for the villain. You guys are wrong, and I'm telling you that you guys are wrong because Starcraft needs this. It really does. Otherwise, if we don't have stuff like this, then if we don't have, like, the ability for you to outthink and outsmart your opponent, then we may as well just be, like, you know, looking at someone's mechanics and just, like, passing out money before these results ever come in. if we take the intellectual component out of StarCraft, then what are we actually doing? You know? Like, why should I support this sport if all it's about is hand speed and dexterity? That's not StarCraft to me. StarCraft has as much an intellectual component as it does a physical one. And the fact that players like Haas exist only allows me to be that much more enthusiastic about the competitive spirit that is StarCraft. And that's my point. Haas represents everything that is good about StarCraft as a competitive sport versus actual sports. In actual sports, if you are a small guy, if you are a weak guy, if you're born with a physical handicap, tough luck, guy. You just can't compete. But StarCraft's not like that. Anyone can compete. You can be as old as White-Raw. Sorry, White-Raw. You can be as old as White-Raw and still be collecting prize money because you're just that good at it. But StarCraft is not pure intellectual like competition. It's not chess. It has a physical component to it, and that's great. It's great being able to see people that, like Cyril, that can just move as fast as they move and move as precisely as they do, and do things that make you say, wow, that's great. Marine King was the first person that I ever saw play StarCraft, that when he split his Marines for the first time and I saw him do it and it mitigated Banelings to a point where Kyrix looked like a fool using Banelings against Marine King, and now these days we can even laugh because it was slow Banelings off creep. I know the game has evolved so much. The fact that we're able to do that, the fact that we're able to sit in awe of players like Innovation, Maru, Sue, Classic, Cyril, the fact that we're able to sit here in awe and wonder at how fast these guys move, how precisely they move, how smooth their mechanics are. And StarCraft 2's got nothing on StarCraft 1 in this regard, because if you watch Flash play StarCraft 1, and you see his mechanics, and you understand as a player how fast and precisely he's moving, it's beautiful. It really is awe-inspiring. But there's a psychological component. There's a mental component. There's something about the way that Flash plays where he's in his opponent's head before the game even starts. And that psychological component is one of the things that makes Flash a truly great player. And we have players like that in StarCraft 2. Maru is one of those guys. Maru has reached this level where he is a mechanical god, but he's also one of those guys that's really hard to prepare for. SOS is just as crazy and just as cheesy as Haas is, but he's able to macro behind it to a point where you have to respect his macro game capability. And this brings me back to Haas. When Haas defeated, who was his first opponent today? He played a Terran opponent earlier today. Oh, it was Kellizer. When he defeated Kellizer, the last game that he defeated him, the deciding game number 5, what did he beat him with in game number 5? He beat him in a macro game, and it was the first game, probably the only game of the tournament, that he utilized Psionic Storm. And it was the last thing that Kellizer expected, because Kellizer had played a 5-game series with this dude all the way down to the wire, and Psionic Storm, which is a staple in Protoss vs. Terran, had never been seen. And the minute that it finally gets revealed, Kellizer's like, well shit, this was the last thing I expected this dude to do, and he won! The fact that Haas is able to win against mechanically superior opponents, dude, it is the epitome, to me, of what makes StarCraft so damn fun to watch. It's what makes StarCraft so fun to play. You don't need to be faster, stronger, and more athletic than your opponent. You just need to be smarter. It's what made MVP one of the best, one of the greatest things that ever happened in StarCraft. In StarCraft 2 was that MVP in Game 7 of his finals against Squirtle proxy 2-raxed him in Game 7, and he won! That was one of the greatest moments in StarCraft. You can't tell me that stuff like this isn't worth cheering for, that stuff like this isn't worth celebrating. It's part of StarCraft. It's a great part of StarCraft. And you might hate to lose to it on ladder. Lord knows I do. Lord knows I do. My default build against Protoss on ladder involves going for a Raven because I hate losing to Dark Templar. Like, it's part of the game, guys. It really is. And honestly, when you really stop to think about it, it's one of the things that makes our game so beautiful. And that's my rave. I'll see you guys next time.